Good morning. Welcome to my kitchen. I was going to use the fancier camera instead of my cell phone, but I recognized that very few of us actually want a wide angle lens of my kitchen or anyone's kitchen in the middle of a pandemic the week before they move houses. So you're getting the cell phone. And we're gonna make some quick soft drop scones this morning. True bakers, please forgive me. They're kind of drop biscuits, Southern recipe. As we talk about this amazing passage from the Gospel of Luke, the Road to Emmaus text, because there's some amazing stuff happening in there. These disciples on the road walking away from Jerusalem back home after Jesus has died, and they run into this person who asks them what they're talking about. And they look at him and say, "Are you the only person who doesn't know what's going on?" "We had hoped," they say a little bit farther into their discussion with the person who turns out to be Jesus, of course. "We had hoped that Jesus would be the one we were waiting for." And Jesus then journeys with them, travels with them to their home. And when the stop comes up, he does what is culturally appropriate. The road splits. They're going to go off to their house, and Jesus keeps going like he's going to go forward. The stranger that has opened the scriptures to them. And they, of course, say, "Please come and stay with us." And so Jesus does. And that's where some beautiful stuff continues to happen. I want to make sure I'm getting the right amount of lemon juice in here. Just enough something sour to make something sweet a little better. So Jesus stops in the middle of the road. They invite him to go forward. He accepts. He goes with them to their house. And they feed him. Normal activity when you have guests in your home. You feed them, right? So the strange thing, though, is that the guest at this table suddenly becomes the host. Jesus takes over and blesses the bread, breaks it open, reminds these disciples that they are loved. And suddenly in that moment, it's clear to these disciples exactly who this person is that is on the road with them, in their home, present in their grief, breaking bread with them. For centuries, folks, the church and the world have been arguing about who controls the bread of God and how we are to rightly take care of it and how we receive it and what we need to know before we take it. All of those pieces. We've been arguing for a long time about this. And we come to conclusions and we come to solutions. And then we find ourselves in a pandemic where our plan and our solution that we should only receive communion, we should only break bread with Jesus when we are gathered in a physical building together, led by someone who has been ordained and trained as a minister of word and sacrament. And we can't gather, and I can't be with you physically. And we had hoped that this would never happen in our lifetime, but it has. And so we find ourselves along the road, each of us with our shelter-in-place companions, as we try to find how it is that we do this continued work together. And we gather still, right? We gather together through Zoom. We gather together on Google Hangouts. We gather together on Facebook. We gather together in real and genuine community, not virtual at all, genuine and true community. And we hear the word, like Jesus told on the road to Emmaus. We hear the story of our faith. And then, all of a sudden, in our homes and in our spaces, Jesus shows up. Jesus shows up in the love between each of you. Jesus shows up for those of us who are sheltering alone in the moments when we know that somehow we really aren't by ourselves. Jesus shows up and takes the wine and the bread and reminds us how to give thanks and is truly and indeed present with us. In these moments, there is no more training that you need other than to know that Jesus can still find you and love you exactly where you are. Even as your heart breaks, even as you doubt, even as you wonder, even as you release hopes, Jesus shows up. Let's do the timer. In your mistakes and in your humanity, Jesus shows up with you and says, "You are loved, and here is this gift for you." We can receive communion in our homes because Jesus comes into our homes. Jesus finds us in locked rooms. Jesus finds us on roads with friends and broken hearts. Jesus finds us and tells us our story again. And we gather together as we are able, and we hear the words that Jesus promised us were true. This is my body. This is my blood. And we are remembered together, even when we are apart from one another. And in that holiness, in that presence of Jesus in our homes, we can find hope. So your communion can look like a bunch of different things. It can look like the communion that we share on Sunday mornings when we gather and we have this meal together. Your communion could look like gathering your family intentionally, sharing the word, and remembering. But the reality is that nothing can stop us from being present with Jesus. Not famine, nor nakedness, nor peril, nor sword, nor pandemic. God's love is with us. Let's get ready for the meal together and trust that Jesus is present within it.